we have a package. It's from TESLAFPV. They are the rear bumper turn into. Okay. It's so long.
Jesus Christ. You can see that?
I can. Okay. They're the Model 3 rear bumper sequential LED turn indicators and brake lights. So these are for Model 3 and Model Y, but we're installing them on the Model 3 because currently the ones that we have down here in the bumper do not light up. They only reflect, and it doesn't look good. So we have these. Inside of the box, you get the LED turn indicators that also double as little brake light things. So coming out of it, they have these two wires right here. You're gonna get two of them, of course, and then you're gonna get two of these. They're splitters. They're gonna split power and data from the brake lights down into what used to be a reflector, but is now going to be these LEDs. Step one is going to be to remove the brake lights. So the first thing you're gonna do is remove this cap, and then there's two 8mm screws inside of here on both sides that you're gonna have to remove, and then you can just pop these off. So to remove the cap, you need like a crescent wrench. We have electrical tape on ours right here because you don't want to damage the plastic on this. You could use like a towel or something as well. Okay, that was not that hard to unscrew. So you probably can just get it started and then use your hands, pull this cap off, and boom, it'll look like that inside of here. Now that that's done, we're gonna have to pull back the carpeting a little bit, and that's just going to reveal the two other bolts that we need to remove. So we're gonna take our 8mm wrench, and once the carpet's pulled back, and we're gonna loosen the two bolts. They're the first ones that you're gonna see. One right here on the bottom, and there's gonna be one right above it, right here.
As you're taking out those nuts, you need to be super careful because behind the nuts, there's the metal, right? And behind the metal, before you get to the tail light, there's a washer. Now the washer was glued to the top part of the tail light, however, the bottom one was not. And it ended up falling through the entire car. So we lost that washer. I just made sure not to tighten it too much. You don't want to crack any of the tail light when you're doing this install.
Don't drop that, bro.
Yeah, I'm really thinking about that right now.
Just gonna have to throw the whole car away.
So you're gonna want to be super careful with these nuts because if they fall down here, it's not gonna be a good day for you. So once those two are removed, you are just going to basically pull up on this whole tail light housing. I should have mentioned this first, but if you go inside where you kind of pulled the carpeting out, the tail light has its data in power cable, right? And so that's clipped in. If you remove that clip by just sliding back this little lock, it'll pop out a lot easier. Mine was actually not locked in from the factory, so that's why my tail light came out so easily. But when we do the right side, we noticed that there was a lock there. And so you're able to, if you have enough slack in the cable from the factory, you're able to pull the tail light out a little bit and then do it from there. Or you can do it before you even try to remove the tail light by just going in where you remove the carpet and removing the little latch and disconnecting it there. So I accidentally opened the charge port, I got the tail light out. So there's also these two washers on here. Make sure you don't drop them as you're pulling this out. This one's kind of stuck to the body of the actual tail light, which is good, but this one was loose, so just making a note of that. The connector for it is right here. We just pulled it out. There's not much slack to it. Mine was literally just sitting in here. You might have to disconnect it by yourself, but mine just pulled out once we pulled that out because there was, again, not much slack in here. Another thing that we're doing is wrapping our pry tool or our flathead screwdriver because now it's time to remove the reflectors. These are pretty hard. You might break some of the clips inside of here. You might break the entire reflector itself. So it's super important to be very careful because you can also scratch your paint. That's why we have one of these, and I'm going to put it against or between the paint and the flathead just to make sure we don't damage anything. That's one clip. Another clip. Okay, that definitely broke. One of the clips snapped in half. Both of the clips snapped in half. All three of the clips snapped in half. So there was a rattling sound that we heard, and that's from this falling into the basin of the car. This one snapped, and this one snapped as well. You can see they're still in there.
What if you grab it, push it in more, and spin it on the diagonal for the square, then pull it out?
Do this.
Yeah.
That's what they look like. That's going to be almost impossible to get out without breaking it. So to remove these, we put this in, we're twisting it sideways, pulling it out from there, getting a better grip, and then losing it. That's also something you can do too. We have this open. We need to then open this more so we can pass the wires through here and then fish them out down here. To do that, we have a 10mm bolt right here. We start taking this off. Now that that bolt's removed, there's also 3 little clips holding this bumper. These aren't really that big of a deal. You're just going to want to basically pull the bumper over the clips as you pull it out. So like that. Now you can pull the bumper a little bit back so that you have a little bit of clearance pushing the wires down there. How are we going to get down there? It's just on.
Yep. Now it's pressing the brake. Do it left turn. Yep.
We need to put this wire into here and get it out from here. So to do that, you're going to need some kind of hard wire or something that's like this. Something that is not going to bend once it hits an obstacle down there. You're going to want to fish it out. We are going to have our connectors and a piece of tape. We're going to tape our connectors here and then pull it through. So we've done a lot of struggling, and we're not going to do it this way anymore. Instead, if you look at the new LEDs, it clips in 2 right here, and the wire just goes in here. So let's just make our lives easier and make this hole bigger. We're going to do that with the superior power of DeWalt. So let's open this up and open this up. Bigger is better. I just punched stuff out of it.
That came up pretty clean, not gonna lie.
Now we can fish it through.
Okay, I got the wire.
There we go. You should be able to pull it through now that the hole's bigger. You should be able to pull the whole thing
I
through.
don't see your connectors though.
You will in a second.
While you're watching us struggle to get the actual connectors through, I just had an idea while editing. Instead of fishing the cable down, if you have like a long enough cable, you can fish it up, and then once it comes out through the top, which might be easier, you can tape the end wires onto it and then pull it back down and through. Now, even though we made this hole, I think it was like 1/2 inch. I wish we went a little bit bigger because it's still kind of hard to get both connectors out at the same time. So if you do have a bigger drill bit, I would recommend that. Now, if you don't, it's going to be fine. You're just going to see me do a little bit of a circling motion to try to get the wires through. What really helped was at the end of our little fishing wire that we used to pull the wires through, there was some tape back there. So in the back, it was bigger than the actual wire. That also helped pull the wires through. And so the wires that were being held on with the tape didn't just slide off the thing we used to fish it through. Now that the wires are down here, we might not need this anymore. Or if we do, we can pull it out when it gets to the bigger end. As long as there's slack here, we can just... And boom! Got your wires.
Yeah, wire.
So now all you're gonna do is take your super nice reflector, make sure you have the right side, and you can do this by the little arrows are pointing to whichever side you're installing on. So we're installing it on the, looking at the back, we're installing on the left side of the car. The arrows are pointing to the left. Also this little pointy part is going into where the pointy part goes here. So let's connect our cables. They are color coded, so the blue and yellow are going to go with the blue and yellow, and the red and black are going to go with the red and black. Now before you pop this in, it's super important that you test this. I'm going to pull this through a little bit. Make sure before you test it, it's also connected on the top, otherwise it will not turn on. It's keyed, so that means it's going to only go in one way, and this red clip is going to lock it in. Once you confirm that works, you can start sucking your wire back in here, and then you see how these are slanted? They're going to go in kind of at an angle as well. And you should hear 2 snaps, ensuring that they've popped in. Now for the excess wire, you don't really need to do much of it because there's not too much of an excess. You can fish all after the splitter down here, and then the original part you can push back into this housing right here. That way when you reconnect the tail light, you're actually going to be connecting it to this splitter right here. Speaking of the tail light, let's put it back in. First we need to reconnect the bumper to the body. So these 3 clips need to be back together. You have your 10mm bolt that's going to go right here. Also, make sure when you do this, this red clip is pushed as far as you can to where it is kind of flush with this, because that's what really is going to be holding in this connector, and you don't want it coming loose. In this little slot right here should be in this slot right here. The brake light is also keyed, so it's only going to go in a specific way. Watch
wash that washer, my boy.
How about he comes off for now?
How about the other one?
No, this one's thick.
Okay.
So that's pressed down, and you can test that by pulling on this to make sure it doesn't come out. Make sure if you did remove the washer because yours was loose like mine, you put it back because we're about to tighten the nuts that hold everything together. That washer is really scaring me. I have hot glue.
Yeah, just put a dab on it or something.
After we secured the loose washer, I was able to put the taillight back on with no problem. And then from there, we're going to screw in the two little nuts. And then on top, don't forget about that big one either. And then you're completely done. If you have any trouble trying to actually fish the wire through that hole, remember, you have a hole in the back. You can either get a second hand, or if you're able to, kind of pull it through yourself and make sure everything's locked and good.
All right, now that those are tightened, we're gonna close this up. But you can see that this is where the splitter is just gonna sit right back here. Plenty of room in the carpeting. Make sure it goes underneath the weather stripping as it was before. So you can go from up here and push it down, or if it's not going in, it's probably because it's sticking it too far out on the bottom, and you just pull the weather stripping back and go over the carpet. Oh, and this might fall off. But all you need to do is push this back underneath the weather stripping. We're gonna do that later though, because we still have to do that side. So I'm finishing up here, and be careful when you're putting these back in because it seems like the clips on the actual pigtail part, look at that, came right out. And that's because this splitter harness right here is super fragile. And now, if I put it in here, it's snug, but it doesn't lock in anymore. That could be an issue. I'm gonna tape over that. And so that's pretty much it.